is there a common thing that we all, a common pop culture interest that we all share?
Mm,
That was not meant to be a trick question.
Maybe,
Lenny.
I was gonna say the Nazi movies.
Yeah, what a great cold open. Let's just talk about war crimes. Like,
Hey, I liked episode 1. I liked when you were like, Fabiola, what's in your bag? Like, what is in my bag? I don't know.
what is in your bag, Fiona?
I have a $10 money order from the post office that I can't use. So if anyone would like $10 from the post office.
Wait, what is a money order? Is it like a gift card?
It's because the government does not take checks. They only take checks if you give $10 in cash to the post office and the post office writes a money order. I don't see, this is why I don't believe governments are real.
Is this from that day where you were tweeting about being in a bunch of different offices and that being Kafkaesque?
Yes. Like, you know how people are like, I want to escape to Europe after like Roe v. Wade getting overturned? And I'm like, that's so difficult. Like, I'm so sorry. We're stuck here. You can't leave. Like, you will not leave. I don't know. I have hope for this country. Anyone else?
I don't know. I was talking to my friend Owen, who was a political science major, and was very pessimistic, and he's just like, look, probably putting your attention at the state level is a good idea, because he thinks in the next couple of years we're either going to be a full militarized state, or we're going to have broken up into fractions.
Okay, see, this is where Lenny comes in. What are we as women in a fascist state? What do you do?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm not going to take the path of Miss Riefenstahl. I am not going to become a propagandist and say I was just practicing my art.
Meanwhile, I watched the new Top Gun this weekend.
Have you been propagandized? How do you feel?
I mean, I accept it if it's good. And it's a movie.
This is how Lenny wins in the end. It's just Miles Teller, shirtless, mustache.
Anyways, speaking of the Empire, Star Wars.
Hello and welcome to It's Giving Camp. I'm Saffron Heftigaub.
And I'm Fabiola Liano.
And we have with us today...
Oh, their friend, Fiona.
Yes, who are you?
I'm a recent college graduate. I'm unemployed for another 2 months. And I will be an English teacher in Vienna for a year before starting my PhD in history in Michigan. And I hope that my students in the next 10 years do not find this, but I do hope that this podcast gets really famous.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We are bringing you on because we love you and we enjoy your company. And also, you know very little about film.
And also of Star Wars.
Oh, that's true. I know nothing about Star Wars.
Today we're talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special. Fiona, what Star Wars properties have you seen?
This one.
Exactly. So that's why your opinion is absolutely valuable to us.
Thank you. I feel like I've learned a lot about this cinematic universe. I think that I am a qualified expert now on all things Lumpy Dumpy and Chewbacca.
There's not a character named Dumpy, by the way. It's Lumpy and Itchy.
I'm learning more.
So, Fabiola, you are the one who's done some research on this. I know Star Wars, but I also know nothing about the origin of this special.
Yeah, basically the reason why most people don't know anything about this is because George Lucas doesn't want you to. And I'm pretty sure, and like the article mentions it, the article that is the resource for this episode, the Star Wars Holiday Special from Vanity Fair. So it's like a whole long Vanity Fair piece, and they interviewed people who worked on this and everything. But yeah, basically it also mentions that George Lucas once said that if he could take a hammer to every bootleg copy of this special, he would.
Well, apologies, Mr. Lucas. We were able to find a copy and watch it.
I mean, I think every Star Wars fan should watch this, regardless of their opinion on it.
Is it canon?
I want to say it is. I personally would like to say that it is canon.
Well, apparently, when Lucasfilm was acquired by Walt Disney Company, the only things that was considered canon were the episodic films and the animated series. So apparently, it's not considered canon.
It should be. It should be considered canon, in my opinion.
Apparently, Life Day is also referenced in chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. So
yes, that's one of the reasons why it should be, because I remember that one of the things from this has been mentioned in universe.
But this is the first appearance of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Who, Fiona, is kind of a legendary, iconic Star Wars character.
Who is Boba Fett?
He's the guy in the animated part with the helmet, and he's riding like a dinosaur thing.
Okay, yes. I remember him.
He's an iconic character who's most recently in a bad show starring himself.
I feel like that's sufficient proof that this is part of the cinematic lore.
I want to ask you, Fiona, as a amateur scholar of camp and amateur scholar of Star Wars, what were your feelings about this special? And also, when did you first see it?
Honestly, I cannot remember. I think like 2 years ago. Like I think it was Christmas, and like my friend was like, "We need to watch this because this is a cult classic that she watches in her family house every single year." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, this will be a cute Christmas movie. Like they'll find Santa in space. I don't know." And then we sit there and we watch it for, I don't know how long it runs, like an hour. And I'm like, I am in jail. I am in Alcatraz. This is torture. I don't know what's going on. This is horrible. Why is it like, it's the same bootleg YouTube copy, by the way. And then this time around, I watched it at 2 times speed. And I was like, this is honestly super entertaining. Like, if I don't think about it as like an extension of Star Wars, but like its own little strange George Lucas shame bucket, I like it.
I watched this for the first time ever, and I did feel like it was a bit of a fever dream. I cannot imagine going to your TV and turning it on expecting to see, it was in the slot that the Incredible Hulk was normally on, I guess, is according to the little bit at the start of this bootleg. Well, I can't imagine coming into the middle of it. There's no context.
And arguably the entire thing is just a bunch of little bits and pieces strung together by the presence of Chewie's family.
Okay, I have a question. Why do Star Wars fans hate it? Like, it's not like horrific, you know? It's just
They hate it because it's silly and they don't like the segments. Star Wars fans also hate everything.
They hate their own franchise. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I mean, I absolutely, I mean, I I think it really is like what Fabiola said. It's like Star Wars fans, at least modern current Star Wars fans, have this idea of Star Wars as this mythical, great, high class art piece. And from the beginning, it's silly, it's ridiculous. But that ridiculousness is unavoidable in the Star Wars holiday special. And so people do not want to consider it canon, I guess. Did the article, the Vanity Fair article, explain more why George Lucas himself hates it?
And it doesn't really explain all that much because they only like got like a few quotes of his that had like previous statements, and apparently like he doesn't like to talk about it and he declined to speak to Vanity Fair about it. But yeah, I think a lot of context would be useful. So it says that the special was set to be broadcast on CBS the weekend before Thanksgiving in 1978. And it was basically overseen by a bunch of people, most of them like TV production execs. And it also had switched directors because originally the first director was David Akromba. I think I'm saying his name right, but like he quit because he was like, I don't like how TV operates, and like he's very much of the new Hollywood class of filmmakers, and this is also very not new Hollywood. This is very network television of the 70s type of TV making.
Were that kind of like variety special for like holiday specials, was that a common thing on network television at the time, to have like a bunch of segments kind of put together?
Yes, so variety shows were really popular in the 70s, but it was at this time where they started to wane in popularity. Like the article mentions that not only was the format wrong, it was also on its last legs with American TV audiences. And it uses the Carol Burnett Show and Sonny and Cher as examples. And the Carol Burnett Show had aired its final episode in March of 78, and the previous year saw the retirement of Sonny and Cher as a TV show. So yeah, like variety shows in and of itself are like pretty retrograde entertainment. The only variety show that is around nowadays is SNL, and that's because no one thinks of it as a variety show. And the other thing I was going to say is that it was George Lucas who was like really adamant on building the special around Wookiees. So we know he's responsible for that part.
So the exact origin of all of the segments, was it a team of writers who came up with them? It was clearly like, I mean, they had quite a budget to have an animated.
Yeah, it had a whole like staff of writers who were like themselves pretty confused about what they were doing. Like some of the writers in the article said that like this was a challenge in and of itself because George insisted on it being centered around the Wookiees, which are very much a lot of writers in the audience to nonverbal creatures for 2 hours.
Yeah, the nonverbalness of the Wookiees. I mean, I found it kind of incredibly entertaining, but probably because I was viewing it in this context of camp. The opening sequence feels very much like a family sitcom, except you can't understand, it's not a single intelligible phrase or word, it's just like growling.
Yeah, they're like screaming for like 15 minutes. And I one of my favorite things about this special is the interior design of their home, because it looks so incredibly 70s. Like, this is the kind of thing that I see in like mood board Instagram and not on Star Wars.
None of the visuals, except for the like brief segments in the Millennium Falcon or in the like less than a minute sequence of Darth Vader, look like Star Wars, look like sci-fi. The whole special is all these little bits. Like, there's not a linear way to talk about this special. There is kind of the background narrative of Han and Chewie are trying to get home to see Chewie's family to celebrate Life Day, but that's background plot.
Yeah, this thing is mostly bits.
So, Fiona, what kind of, like, you say you have, you've written down multiple questions. Do you have other questions about these bits? What were your impressions of them?
I just wrote fairy, blonde. I don't even know. Like, I watched it 6 hours ago and it left me. The guy at the bar, just depressed, looking for love. Who is he?
I don't know.
I don't know who he is.
What if he
He
contributes?
exists for the special. He exists for the special.
And that whole cantina bar on Tatooine is a location in the first film, and many of the alien types are from that.
But B. Arthur is not there. But she should be there. I think B. Arthur should always be at the cantina, politely singing at people to leave.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems.
What else happens?
I just watched it. I can't even tell you.
I loved the space Julia Child drag bit.
Oh yeah, there's like the cooking segment.
Oh, actually, I really like that one. That was pretty funny. Oh, I remember the fairies were. It's in the beginning. The little tiny fairies.
Oh, like the holograph. Show.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be a projected image, and that's why they look small, because it's like a small little screen.
Oh, technology.
I mean, that's kind of the point about technology. Like all of the bits, all of the little segments come from these like sci-fi technology that are basically various versions of like video screens that then project the like a little music video or something. The grandpa, I can't remember if that's Itchy or
Oh yeah, the VR porn.
yes.
Oh, I was going to ask a question about that. I wrote it down. I was like, is he watching?
Yeah, that's like the most common read of that scene. And like,
I mean, there's nothing else it can be, right?
no,
they're
like
different species. They're different species.
it's Star Wars. They don't care about that.
That's like me watching an octopus, I guess.
But yeah, one of the infamous things about the special is that like Yeah, this is a scene that happens in a Star Wars.
Oh, this is very interesting. I was looking into my neighbor's window during my hot girl nighttime walk, and the guy had like a little VR set on, like just waving his arms around. I was like, well, why did I feel deja vu? But now I'm like, oh, Chewbacca in real life.
This is what gets me about sci-fi from like the 60s and 70s, where they're like, ooh, okay, so television became a big thing. What's the next new way that people will be watching media? And they come up with, sometimes they come up with something that's similar to, I guess, like personal computers and iPhones, but usually they are so much more complicated than we actually have. Like these VR, headsets or holographic tables. We don't have that. And yes, there are people with VR headsets, but it's such a minority of people who is actually interested in that kind of entertainment. I think it's as someone whose father used to work in VR technology, I think it's really funny where looking at sci-fi and what like sci-fi writers think is going to be the technology of the future, because often they forget about practicality and they go for, especially in a visual medium like a movie, they go for what's going to look fun and interesting and futuristic. And it's like, hey, fun fact, most people aren't going to buy a whole bunch of new tech just to like watch something. We're still going to use our compute, like we're still going to use our TVs. Like they're just going to get better.
The lack of practicality is camp.
Mm.
Mm. Mm. Oh no, there was ABBA, the hologram concerts.
That's Jefferson Starship. It's
No,
not
no, in
ABBA.
real life, ABBA is doing hologram concerts because they're too old to perform. So you can watch them
Oh,
as
wow.
holograms perform. Yeah,
Wait, how do they do
practicality.
that? Wait, what? Wait, because they still have. Is it they're just not traveling and they're like put on a concert and it's like that videotape is projected, or is it like archival footage that's being projected?
No, it's like the little fairies where it like looks real. It looks like them. Like it's hologram 3D ABBA.
But they still have to record that. When and how do they record that? Is
I
it the
don't.
same if they're going on tour and it's a concert? Is it the same one no matter which location you're going to? Because it's just one video that they loop.
I saw a TikTok of it. I can't say that it's good evidence, but it looked really realistic. Like it looked like them, but like three-dimensional and younger and holograms. Like they said it's a hologram concert, and it does like it's not like a video.
Huh.
I don't
That's
know.
fascinating.
Yes.
My voice is for you alone. I am found in your eyes only. I exist for you. I am in your mind as you create me. Oh, yes. I can feel my creation. I'm getting your message. Are you getting mine? Oh, we are excited, aren't we? Well, just relax. Just relax. Yeah. A little more. Now, we can have a good time. Can't we?
Do you want to talk about the actual what the campiness of this show more, or special more, Fabiola?
Yeah, like I feel like most of the camp of this is in how deeply ingrained the 70s is in the special. And like it's definitely one of the things that sets it apart from the rest of the Star Wars universe, because we clearly see it have a definitive look through the different movies and TV shows that have come out. But this looks very different from what Star Wars usually looks.
That's so fun too, because even in the 70s when it came out, it still looked visually inconsistent. So now, but I feel like now the kind of atmosphere it takes on to us in the like modern era or current era is kind of even though it's the same effect, it's slightly different because the it's not only like the stark difference between how we think Star Wars should look and how it looks, but it's also a distinct difference between how what we're used to, like contemporary specials, and what it looks and it look. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like the variety show formatting is itself a very different form of television than what most people under the age of 30 or 40 are used to seeing.
My question is, who was the intended audience for this? Because, you know, calling back to the fact that there's like low-key like alien porn, but there's also like a little mini Chewbacca watching a cartoon. I can't, who is the, what is the age range supposed to be? What is, who is this for? Who is this for, Lucas?
First of all, what really threw me off about the cartoon is that he's watching a TV show about people he knows.
Yes, okay. That was also, I was like, this makes no sense. This makes no sense.
Like,
And
not only are they people that he knows, they're people who are enemies of the state. Why are they on the television?
There's like it implies that someone's like the resistance has commissioned like an animator to animate like stories of their adventures, and then all of the actual like rebel members have then voiced themselves or something.
Yeah.
Lenny recreation.
I love you, Fiona. You know what? Yeah, let's connect this back to Miss Reproduction.
But to answer your actual question, Saffron, the it was less about intended audience, but about finding a key stores line to sell more merch. It was made about a year after the first Star Wars came out, but the second one was only in pre-production. So they were like, how do we keep Star Wars in the minds of the American public? And the answer was a holiday special.
And it worked.
And it also didn't, because people hated it, I guess. They immediately hated it.
According to the Nielsen media research, it was seen by close to 13 million television households, but also apparently a lot of people shut it off right after the animated segment. So
Wait, like the animated segment angered people so much they were like, we have to turn off our TVs right now.
no, like it, not that it angered people, but it was like the last worthwhile thing to watch. Like, this was the one thing a lot of people were looking forward to, and now that it was over, it was like, I'd as well turn off the TV.
So the animated segment was part of the advertising.
I don't think that it was like necessarily part of the advertising, but because it was like a novelty and it's like an animated portion, and yeah, it just inherently seems a bit more exciting to audiences, especially kids.
I'll say I loved the visuals of the animated segment. I thought that style was super fun, and like the it was almost like the way the characters were designed felt very like caricature-y in a way that I thought was really fun. Also, that there's a planet that's like a water planet, but it's all red and there's dinosaurs on it. Just bonkers.
One of the really like cool and camp things about the special is like how it serves as a kind of 70s time capsule, and that's pretty clear with the animation style of the segment, because that's how animation looked in the 70s. But yeah, it's also way more interesting than a lot of the planets that they're churning out these days.
Did you find it camp as like a reflection of the time period it was made in, or like in it being a time capsule of the 70s?
I mean, both in that it's a reflection of an era, but also the era itself is incredibly camp. Like the 70s was arguably the most camp decade to me personally.
And is that due because of the kind of designs that were in style then?
Like not just the designs, but the contrast of the designs and social turmoil. There was glitter everywhere.
I want to talk about Christianity. Which, okay. By which I mean in this special, what is the religion of the Wookiees? Because
I mean, it's technically the religion of everyone in Star Wars. I'm pretty sure that's what the mention of it in The Mandalorian implied.
but if that's the case, why did like Leia be like, oh, we can't celebrate this the way you do. It's special to you. And like Han's like, I'm gonna get you home for Life Day.
I don't know. It's never fully explained. Like most things in this special.
All of the way, okay, the way that each of the Wookiees just grab at the very end. We've been hearing about Life Day this entire time. Oh, we got to get you home for Life Day. Happy Life Day. It's, you know, it's build up to it, and they all of them each pick up a glass orb, and then there's a weird crossfade, and they're in red robes in like a sea of stars. There's a weird procession, and then they're at the Tree of Life. Okay, that makes sense. Tree of Life, nature, life. But it's kind of occulty. It's very occulty.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say the only way it feels Christian is in the sense that it's clearly like a space version of Christmas, considering that this is a holiday special, but everything else looks like really culty, which is also very 70s.
The contrast to me is so, I described the opening feels very much like, you know, a family sitcom. And then they have this bonkers sequence that is incredibly occulty, and then the very end it transitions back to them, oh, they're sitting together at dinner, very end of a family special. They all take hands and bow their heads as if in prayer. That to me felt incredibly camp, because it's this like, not only do you have the contrast of the very like 70s American suburbia aesthetics in Star Wars, that in itself is then contrasted by this like very occulty, out of place segment celebrating Life Day, which you would assume would be a Christmas allegory. Also, I think the Jefferson Starship song mentions God.
I didn't pay attention to the lyrics very much, but like the whole Wookiee family setting plus the Life Day sequence, it just kind of feels like a parody and bastardization of the nuclear family to me. That's like how my mind is processing it.
I also assumed it was parody, but I assumed it was intentional.
The family part I feel is intentional, but it's morphing into like this cultish atmosphere. I don't think it was.
Do people go to mass on Thanksgiving?
No, but Christmas movies come out around Thanksgiving time.
Because then the dinner scene, wouldn't that be like Thanksgiving dinner? Like we hold hands, we thank God for all that He's given us. Because I guess it'd be funny if you're like watching furry people on TV have Thanksgiving, and then you're also having Thanksgiving. It's like that's me on TV. I didn't.
With the bantha meat or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Batha meat. That's the turkey.
Then wouldn't that be camp if it's like a reflection of the 70s and then like, I don't know, the screen is a reflection of the suburban house?
It's a distorted reflection.
Ooh.
Yeah, the entire thing just feels like distortions of distortions. And also in the sense of how so many of the segments that we're watching, the family is also watching themselves in their home because they just appear on the screens.
Ooh.
I don't know how. It is true that there's a lot of screens and a lot of like communication devices in this special. A lot of characters talking to each other. And I guess I assumed that was, I mean, it's kind of feels like just an excuse to try to fit more characters in. It's like, how do we get Luke and R2-D2 in this special? The Wookiee family will call them. It does feel very like performative.
Yeah.
In that there's like there's no, it's such a thinly veiled excuse to include them. Like a thinly constructed excuse to include them that feels very like they're not trying to hide that it is like there's not a lot of substance to the plot.
The substance is mostly found in the segments and performances.
Can I ask, does Chewbacca have a big role in like the main films? Like, is he an important
He's
character?
Han Solo's sidekick / co-pilot.
And that's kind of all you know about him?
Yeah.
And then you get like lore about his family.
It's lore about his family that then never comes up again. I don't think there's a single mention in any of the main films of like Han being like, hey, I gotta get you back to your family, your wife and your son. It's never mentioned. If anything, you would assume that like Han and Chewie got married at some point. Like they're the life partners.
Like if you've seen both this special and the rest of the things that Chewbacca has appeared on, you'd assume that he's like an absent father or something.
Okay, maybe that's canon. Chewbacca's a terrible father. He doesn't pay child support. Doesn't go to baseball games.
I also love the fact that Han like makes this like big deal about you guys are my family too. Like I think that's the most emotional Han gets in any Star Wars media that I've seen. He's usually like the stoic space captain, but
like the most attached to people he's ever been.
Yeah. That is also super out of touch.
You're like family to me.
seen the holiday special, Fiona, what do you think the plot of Star Wars is?
That's a good question. Leia, Harrison Ford, brother sister incest, space Nazis, Indiana Jones.
Wait, who do you think the space incest is?
The princess and what's his name? Hayden Christensen? Is that right?
Okay, Luke and Leia are siblings. Hayden Christensen plays their father in the prequels.
Their father. Oh my god.
Do you know the most iconic line from Star Wars?
I am your father.
Yes!
He's the father in question.
It's kind of funny. He's the father in question. Not Chewbacca, though. He's in there for his son.
Darth Vader is a better father than Chewbacca. Wow.
He goes to visit. He remembers he's a father. Wait, so Darth Vader has both Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, and
Well, technically, he doesn't give birth to them. Padme does. Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman is in the film. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Who else is in these movies? Goddamn! Wow. That's
Samuel
amazing.
L. Jackson.
Him?
Yes, he's in the prequels and he has a purple lightsaber.
Wow. You know, that's unexpected. Actually, you're telling me Adam Sandler has a part too. What is the plot of Star Wars?
So it's the original trilogy is basically a metaphor for the Vietnam War.
Where the Empire is America.
Yes. And the prequel trilogy is Darth Vader / Anakin's corruption arc from being a little boy to a young man. And he ends up being very burnt and crispy, and that's why he gets the suit.
Basically, they made 3 movies to explain why they made the first 3 movies. Every single little reference, you know, it's to explain like, hey, here's why all of this exists. And then Star Wars, or rather Disney, have decided that because that you can make 3 movies to explain a character's backstory, we need to make a television show to explain every single side character's backstory as well.
And why we shouldn't get involved in Vietnam.
No. Recent Star Wars is very apolitical. To the point where most people don't know that the original trilogy is about the Vietnam War.
Is like the original trilogy anti-war? Like,
yeah. Darth Vader is kind of defeated through pacifism, kind of.
That's pretty radical for the 70s. Yeah, I'll take it.
What's really cool about like explaining the Star Wars original trilogy in contrast with the holiday special is that the original trilogy is subtextually about the 70s, but the Star Wars holiday special is textually and superficially about the 70s.
Subtextually, it's about merchandising.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what all the screens mean.
One of the fun bits of trivia that I want to mention is that Carrie Fisher was willing to appear in this under the condition that she got to sing. Her request was to sing.
That's why she sings.
Yes, while being clearly high.
She's high?
She's clearly high. Her eyes looked glassy, and Carrie Fisher famously had drug problems. But I do love a quote they got for the Vanity Fair piece where someone said she was going through her Joni Mitchell period.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. What else to say about this? Other than the fact, I think my favorite line delivery was Luke going, "What's up?"
What really stood out to me about the Luke segment was how he was not blinking at all.
I also thought he looked so baby. He looks so young.
Yeah. And also he was clearly wearing some eyeliner.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looked like his eyes were super like.
There's something off about the twins.
We celebrate a day of peace, a day of harmony, a day of joy we all can share together joyously. A day that takes us through the darkness, a day that leads us into light, a day that makes us want to celebrate the night.
Yeah, and one of the things that really stuck out to me about the special, in particular the Diane Carroll section, is how one of the reasons why it's so memorable to people who have seen it is because there's like almost nothing sexual in any Star Wars thing ever. And I also think that makes it very camp. Like not just the entire segment, but the fact that it's like one of the few overtly sexual scenes in Star Wars.
I just love the aesthetics of that section with all the like the beaded cap headdress thing and all the sparkly stars.
Okay, so because I finally read the Susan Sontag article.
Did you read Notes on Camp for the first time before
Yeah.
this?
No, I haven't. So this was the first time. And then I was like, I don't know, because I was like, what is camp? And then like I listened to your first episode.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you saw anything in this special that reflected any one of Sontag's points in that essay, or of something that we said in the first episode.
Okay, I wrote down quotes for your first episode because I was like, I will study. I will find out what is camp. And then you guys were like, we'll give a definition, but you guys didn't give me clear enough definition that I had to like keep listening.
Yeah, it's not easy. There's not one simple definition.
I wrote down like heroes who didn't want to be heroes but ended up being heroes. Irony, theatricality, identity, inside jokes, and marginalized groups. I don't know. I think like the special fits some of the things, but maybe not marginalization. I guess if Chewbacca is marginalized, yes.
I mean, I guess in the way that like the stormtroopers and the Empire like attack all the rebels, they are like somewhat of a marginalized group and heroes who didn't mean to be heroes, but that's less of a theme that I feel is it's not a theme that feels intentional in the holiday special. It could be a theme that's intentional in the original trilogy.
Do you think camp has to be political, or do you think there's apolitical examples of camp?
It often is, whether intentionally or unintentionally, like because of how much this holiday special is very much reflects the American nuclear family. It kind of unintentionally like it serves as a snapshot of 70s Americana, whether it meant to do that or not, but also kind of like a warped, unreal 70s Americana.
I would also say that like the act of discussing anything as camp and saying anything is camp is political, because camp is looking at the layers, is breaking down those layers. And to have that kind of critical thought and examination like requires like politics, requires critical thinking that is antithetical to a political ideology, I feel like.
Wait, I guess also my other question was like sensibility versus style. Like, is she just saying this is just like, what is a sensibility? I forgot to Google the word, but I was like, yeah, that's a real word. But
I feel like it's kind of the blend of how something visually looks with how you receive it and interpret it.
That's what I meant when I say sensibility. I mean like the emotional response that you have to it, rather than like the surface level, how does it look.
Okay, wait 1 second. I have to Google the Walter Benjamin quote.
And to me, sensibility is looking at how something looks and not just thinking about how it makes you feel, but also thinking about what it's communicating.
Which Walter Benjamin quote were you thinking of?
Okay, you know the one from like the work of art in the age of
Mechanical Reproduction?
mechanical, yeah, and he says like fascism, what does he say, like fascism aestheticizes politics and then communism politicizes art.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in camp the image comes first and then the politics.
Like looking for the politics in the art.
Yeah, it's about looking for the politics in the image.
I guess I feel like Benjamin kind of like divides aesthetics versus art, and then like the focus on aesthetics is a bit more fascist, but
the thing is that like I do think focusing on aesthetics is fascist in that it's reductionist, when art has aesthetics, but art isn't just the aesthetics, it's the meaning.
and then so you're saying like camp is like a focus on the aesthetics, but it's also like the focus on aesthetics for the purpose of the art.
It's not trying to you don't ignore what the visuals mean. You want to dive into what the visuals mean.
Going back to Star Wars, the Empire and the Rebellion have very different aesthetics, but they each have aesthetics nonetheless. It's about what each one is communicating.
Okay, wait, is Darth Vader human?
Yes, he's just a very crispy man with robot limbs under there.
Is this species against species? Like, are all stormtroopers human, and then like the other planets?
All the stormtroopers that we've seen are human.
That's the thing. Okay, here's the thing though. I don't know if human ever said in Star Wars. It is said in the
I
cartoon.
don't think so.
In the cartoon and the holiday special, it's like, oh, it only affects humans. But I don't think human is ever referred to in Star Wars. There's humanoids.
They're all technically aliens. They're all in a galaxy far, far away.
I mean, the thing with Star Wars is that even though there's this current obsession with like explaining the reason for, say, why does this guy have this kind of armor, it's at its core it's a sci-fi show or a sci-fi story. In sci-fi stories, you don't have to explain why everything the way it just is. There's just aliens all over the place, there's spaceships, there's faster than light travel. That's the way it is, and you don't need to like the point isn't to look into the specifics of that. Well, do either of you have any other last takeaways that you'd like to talk about for the
I really wish there was more drag and sex in Star Wars.
I have no clue.
you have no takeaways?
I think I learned a lot about camp today.
Yeah, do you have any more questions about like what camp is?
Or like in relation to the holiday special.
Didn't you say like it's camp if someone doesn't like it? Like it needs to be hated to be camp. Has anything ever been liked and also camp? Or is being hated part of being camp?
I mean, I don't think it needs to be hated. It just needs to be different than what everything else within its context was. And by virtue of being different, that can lead to people hating it, but it's not inherent.
Because like say John Waters films are, he has a consistent desire, consistent way of making his films that there are kinds of people who consistently love it, but in contrast and in conversation to mainstream, it is different and people don't like it.
And do you think Susan Sontag would put the Star Wars Christmas special in her notes on camp if she like wrote it 10 years later?
I think she would. If she watched it. Did Susan Sontag ever comment on Star Wars? Was she?
I don't know.
She was still
but
around.
I feel like, yeah, but I feel like she would count it as camp because of just like the different intersections of pop culture that this thing has.
Well, Fiona, is there anything you would like to promote? Is there any place people can find you?
Don't find me. Don't look for me.
You are our guest as a friend, not as someone who wants to be online.
I want to have an internet footprint of 0. Like, my children will not be looking at screens if I cannot have an abortion.
Okay. Well, that's where we're gonna end this episode, I guess. You can find us on Twitter at Giving Camp Pod.
And on Instagram at It's Giving Camp Pod.
And that's all lowercase, one word. Our theme music that you are listening to right now is by Harrison Lurie. I'm Saffron Heftegeld, and I'm online at GaldHefta.
And I'm Fabiola Liano, and you can find me on Twitter at Fabiola_Liano.
Thank you so much for listening, and if you enjoy our podcast, please recommend it to your friends and give us a rating online. Fuck SCOTUS.
That was a good ending line.